Hello students and welcome back to my channel. This is the Community Nutrition series of videos, and today we're going to continue by talking about the eating habits of the population, as well as the labeling on our food and the nutritional policies that we can find out there. So let's begin. Hi, I am Tommy. I am a human nutrition student and researcher at the university. What I do in this type of videos is to synthesize what I learned at the university so that I can explain and teach you the best and most valuable information you need to know. So let's begin this video by talking about the eating habits of the population. Preferences and eating habits. So a habit is a repetitive task we do. It is conditioned by the availability, situation, or regimen discipline. A preference, on the other hand, is what one desires based on the availability of food. This conditions the different food typologies. Biological, so how nutritious is the food we choose. Psychological, so based on appetite and sensory. And also cultural, based on customs and habits, traditions. The eating behavior is the result of the biological, ecological, and sociocultural environment. The determining factors are two mainly: availability and choice. Availability is based on the geographical and climatic conditions. It's not the same living near the sea or living in the mountains. Transportation and communication is not the same an island versus a continent, for example. And also the food policy. So, what access to food do you have in your country? On the other hand, choices. We choose our food based on biological, social groups, and individual factors. Biological, based on sensory factors, we have the main one, which is the taste. The taste is very important for food preference and has a genetic difference. For example, there are some people that love chocolate, most of us, but certain individuals, they don't like chocolate. That's because of a genetic difference. The main flavors we have are sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and the new one, umami, which is like the smoked flavor. Bitter indicates the toxic substances, whereas sour indicates the initial state of decay. There are also other flavors, such as fatty, ammoniated, starchy, and kokumi. These are flavors modifiers, though, and spicy, menthol, and astringent. They are not considered flavors. So how does taste work? We have receptors coupled to G protein that generate a nervous impulse, and these are taste receptors, and they can be found throughout the body, including the testicles. Another biological factor is genetics. Genetics play a role in taste, sensitivity, and taste receptor variants. Very important. And genetic hating on broccoli, genetic vegan, genetic sweet tooth are only some examples on how our genetic can differ our taste. Nutritional needs are also a biological factor that will determine our choice of food. For example, sport and different needs are going to influence our choice of food. If we are doing sport, we're going to prioritize probably our protein intake. And based on this, we have the bliss point, because this is the combination of sugar, fat, and salt that the ultra-processed food contain. This is used by the industry to create an addiction, bliss point, and this is used to target certain groups of people. Another factor that will interfere with our choice of food is social groups. Our beliefs, motivations, customs, symbolism, tradition, religious beliefs, and economy will affect our decisions with food. This is based on the community we live in, whereas individual factors are things like psychological affective, educational level. When educational level tends to be higher, obesity tends to be lower. Income level, socialization, attitudes, preferences, and aversions. So knowing that our eating behavior is determined by the availability and our choices, we know that food habits will vary throughout the life stages and they change over time. To evaluate eating habits, we estimate the daily consumption using questionnaires, for example, and having a rough idea of how the population is eating and what is eating. For example, in the pandemic, we started eating bad at the beginning, but then we suddenly improved. And during crisis, we tend to eat bad. because the prices are very high, and the most affordable food tends to be the lower quality one. And these questionnaires also estimated that there is a lowering trend in the adherence of the Mediterranean diet during recent years. So now it's time to take a look at the labeling and information to the customer. So this is the information that appears on the food, and it can go with some possible nutritional claims. It is the main way of communication between producers and customers. Warning: it provides information but does not educate. We have to differentiate labeling, packaged food, and ingredient. They are three different things. There is a mandatory information on food labeling in Spain, which has to include the expiration date, storage, country of origin, instructions for use, if any, alcohol, and nutritional information. The regulation on nutritional information is that it must provide the energy value for 100 grams, as well as fats, saturated fats, carbs, sugars, proteins, and salt. Labeling can be omitted on single ingredient foods and water. For example, honey. Everything else that appears on label is voluntary. Things like micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals are voluntary. And they recently started to include RDAs, recommended daily amounts, in labels. The usefulness of labeling is the protection of the customer against abuse and fraud. Again, it provides information but does not educate. Now let's take a look at the difference between nutritional claims and healthy properties claims. Nutritional claims are nutritional properties indeed, such as source of fiber, high in protein, whereas healthy properties claims, they act on the effect that certain nutrients have on the human body. And this can be claims of disease risk reduction and child development statements, such as it helps with the normal development and growth of children, calcium, for example. Interpreting labeling is not easy, though. As you can imagine, if you flip the package of whatever processed food, you will find out a lot of information. That's why there is the front labeling. It saves time and guides customers. It provides a summary of the properties of the food you're trying to buy. It can be interpretive or informative, specific to nutrients or summary type. As you can see here, we have examples of front labels. The types are approval seals, so they say that the food is good for you. Warning seals, such as high in sugar, high in sodium, high in fat. These are probably the best ones. Then classification seals, such as Nutri-Score, so that they have these calculations based on the parameters of the food to tell you if it's good or bad for you. These are summary type. And then seals with quantities, percentages, and colors, such as this one, for example. What are the requirements for front labeling? Number 1, to discriminate healthy products within the same category. Number 2, to be in line with dietary guidelines, of course. Number 3, be an inclusive model, which must be applicable to all products, even artisanal products. Number 4 is to choose healthier products even in different categories, which is very difficult to do. Number 5 is to focus on conflicting nutrients. That's why I said warning seals are probably the best. Number 6 is to stimulate behavior change. And number 7 is to make a definitive change in behavior, which is probably the most difficult to achieve. So apart from labeling, we have advertising, which is to inform the public about the product and to motivate them to make a purchase. Here in Spain, we have the NAOS code for nutrients and the PAOS code for advertisement. It's basically an advertising regulation. You have to understand that there is a industry pressure on advertisements, since big alcohol, big soda, big food, and big tobacco are interested in you making the purchase, and they will do whatever it takes to convince you to buy, even using neuromarketing techniques that are based on biology and neuroscience to make you buy their products. And now let's take a look at nutritional policies. These have the goal of identifying nutritional problems and improving the quality of life of the population through the use of campaigns. What's the strategy for the prevention of hunger and malnutrition? Well, in the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, there is one that says fight hunger, and food insecurity and malnutrition. Food safety, indeed, is making food safe and healthy. But food security is making healthy food available and accessible. Food sovereignty is respecting lifestyles, different cultures, and production methods of that particular area. Because of climate emergency, there are climate migrants and refugees. They tend to have lower resources, lower biodiversity, and higher diseases. Because of that, they can develop malnutrition and food insecurity. And that's when modern countries will help them. What are the tools for measuring the level of food security? The measures are based on the Food Insecurity Experience Scale, as well as the Food Consumption Score, or the World Food Programme, which is to provide humanitarian aid in case of natural disasters, wars, etc. And here we have to differentiate two things. Food aid, which is to give food, or food assistance, which is to give money. Food aid can be complete when we give a full diet of 2100 calories, 10 to 12% of protein, and 17% of fat, full with micronutrients. Very, very important. Then there is also the basic food basket. These are local preferences, respecting culture and customs. So we basically provide the food they like. And then the complementary measures. This is, for example, giving fortified food blends, such as the Super Cereal Plus Plus. This is a porridge made out of flours from grains and legumes fortified with extra micronutrients. Then there is also the ready-to-use food supplements, such as fortified biscuits, and the ready-to-use therapeutic food supplements. These are the same biscuits, but with extra things, such as peanut butter, which is very high in calories in cases of extreme malnutrition. On the other hand, the food assistance is giving money, either by coupons, which is the better way, so for food products directly or for a purchase in a store, or to give cash. Usually has problems with it because of theft or corruption though. So the food policies, they are based on three main pillars: food system, the food environment, and the behavioral change. The food system is divided in three parts. The first one is availability, affordability, and acceptability of food. So the food we give, they must have healthy composition, acceptable, and it must have good organoleptic characteristics, of course. Then the intervention policies, they must favor healthy food and limit ultra-processed, and then promoting healthy diets. So facilitating the follow-up of a healthy diet. So the actions are to provide good food, to encourage the consumption of good food, and to facilitate a healthy diet. But few improvements in food system are made by the government, unfortunately. Regarding food environment, we have to implement healthy food environment policies, the availability of specific foods in appropriate sectors, and promote healthy environments. What are the policies? The regulation of information, the availability, controlling marketing and advertising, collaboration agreements, promoting retailers with lower supply of healthy foods, very important, and restricting promotions of unhealthy goods, such as fast food promotions. And the behavioral change, which is the most difficult one, is to provide information, educate people, and motivate them, empower them against current food environments. Because a better education is correlated with lower obesity. So what's the organizational structure of food policies then? It must be a single document with everything. And there is a department responsible for coordinating and implementing all those measures. The requirements are administrative support and advice, and also a schedule and budget for implementation of those policies. There are several elements that integrate food policies, but these main two are the ones we need to follow. The research on nutrition issues. Policies must be based on the best available scientific evidence, always. And the nutritional information and surveillance system, the information gathering and decision making to improve the population nutrition. To do that, we have automated data collection. And with that data, we can create databases. These are, for example, the FAO database food balance sheet, or the INE food consumption and impact on health system here in Spain. Data sources from which we can have those databases can be the VIMNIS, the ELINA, the World Health Organization, the CDC, and NAUS. So to recap, we go from nutritional policies to nutritional objectives to nutritional guidelines. Okay, this is it for this video. I hope you understood everything I said. If you didn't, there is a comment section down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you get notified every time I upload a new video. If you found this video helpful, don't hesitate to share it to your friends and family to spread this knowledge to them as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed.